Welcome to Bean and Bracket Factory and welcome to the next project, which is this rather awesome Yamaha YG1. This is the 1966 model, and as you can see it clearly looks about 55 years old. You may have heard the term worked when parked. Well, this one didn't. This basically conked out and was thrown into a shed to rot a little bit longer. I don't know why it broke down, but it did. So the objective of this mission, this project, is to work out why it conked out, fix it, and get the thing operational. So next step is to stick it on some kind of platform, and I'll take you on a guided tour. So now we've got it sitting rather precariously on a pallet, and we can have a bit of a close look of what's going on. So as you can see, it's a bit rusty, but well, this rust is only on the outside. The exhaust pipe is quite rusty. A few cobwebs going on. So, given that the engine just needs fuel and a spark, there's a certain amount of timing involved and compression. Just going to do a few basic tests. Let's see if we've got a spark, and if we've got a spark, let's see if we've got fuel, and let's see where it all leads us. So I put a new plug in it, so we can eliminate the plug as being an issue. And if I now kick it over, I don't know whether you can see that, but basically you can hear the ticking. We are getting a spark, so that's good. We know the ignition system's working. So now we'll have a quick look at the fuel. We'll take this off, and inside here is the carb. We'll have a look at the carb, see what's going on. I pulled the carb off, and actually I'll show you the carb. Let's go over to the carb on the car. The carb, apart from some sort of gunge in the bottom, a bit of silt, it all seems pretty clean. I mean, it may be that the jets are blocked. That would explain it not running very well or stopping, but they all look fairly good. But I'll clean it anyway. They all look fine. You can see through them, which is the giveaway. So I'm not sure it was that. Anyway, back to the took the head off, and you've got, obviously the piston goes up and down. There's no I've got a little torch here. If I can turn it on. Can I turn it on? There. There's no scores on the bores. I mean, it is pretty coked up. It's got quite a lot of coke on the piston, but again, that's not going to stop it. Head is pretty coked up, but that's not going to stop it either. The fuel, the fuel looks like treacle. So I'm just going to drain it all out, and the tank is not great. The tank is sort of rusty inside, so it may have been rubbish petrol, but it has been sitting a few years without petrol. So anyway, the investigation continues. I had a look in there to see if maybe the crank seal is leaking, but there's no sign of that. Sprayed WD-40 on it just to, try and stop the corrosion. So what I'm doing now is, I mean, another thing that can stop these little two-strokes is they're being completely coked up. So I'm actually going to take the exhaust pipe off and see what sort of state that's in. But unfortunately, it's got some pretty seriously rusty bolts just down here that I've got to see if you can see it there. Got to get that off. So I put penetrating all on that. So the investigation continues. There's no smoking gun at the moment, but lots of little things which will all contribute towards not running particularly brilliantly, like coked up duff fuel, maybe block jets. So I'll carry on, get the exhaust off, and then I'll start cleaning things up and possibly putting it back together and seeing if I can start the thing. So anyway, the story continues. So the exhaust pipe is now off, and it's probably the nearest thing to a smoking gun we have so far. This thing is completely choked up, weighs a ton, completely blocked. It's effectively like trying to run your bike but with your hands stuffed over the end of the exhaust pipe. So I'm going to clean that up with difficulty. Hands are filthy. So yeah, that has to be cleaned up. That is probably what's causing it to not want to rev or run or just die. So that's the mission now, I think. So I think this is the culprit. It's the nearest thing to a smoking gun. It's completely choked up with carbon. So I'm going to see what a bit of caustic soda can do. So that's the before. So this has been soaking in caustic soda for about 4 hours, and you can see it's working. It's taken off that layer, but you can see just inside here there's some seriously large lumps of carbon still inside there. And I think what I might have to do is leave it for a few more hours and then get out the big guns, break out the big guns as oxyacetylene, and actually apply some serious heat. This is getting off. I mean, this is loosening this, so I might be able to knock off or knock out quite a lot of it, and then I'll burn the rest off with oxyacetylene. But I mean, it's just, there you go. There's a can't change it. Just there is a seriously, I mean, that's completely and utterly blocked. So right, anyway, I'll drop that back down in there, make sure I don't splash myself. Splosh. And I'll let that soak for a bit. I know it's quite strong because the whole container got really quite hot when I mixed it, so I'll leave that to soak for a bit longer and see what happens. Another couple of hours and this is definitely working. I can now detach all of this stuff. It's actually very, well, that bit is, it's all coming off, which is quite good. It's basically quite nice, clean, bare metal there. This all comes off. And also, meanwhile, over here, we have this contraption, hot air gun, blowing obviously hot air through the exhaust. Can't really see it, but there's actually a bit of a cloud of smoke coming up there. So that's gradually burning off all of the oil inside the exhaust pipe. I don't think that's really the issue. That isn't really the issue. This is the issue, because this was completely blocked. So I think here it's very much a case of patience is a virtue. So I'm feeling quietly confident that the baffle, which is in there for another soak, is the culprit of the problem. So based upon that, I'm cracking on and I'm preparing for the rebuild. So you can see the top of the piston. I had to go scraping away some of the carbon. There's about 1 millimetre of carbon on there. So I'm scraping that away just with a screwdriver. So I'm going to carry on doing that just to decoat the top of the piston. When I've done that, I'll tackle the cylinder head. So you can see that I've taken off all of the carbon, and I did it in situ so that I didn't get all this crud all down inside the engine, which wouldn't have been great. But now that it's actually quite clean, what I might still do is take the barrel off, because it's quite likely that the piston rings are going to be stuck in the grooves in the piston. Given how coked up the entire engine is, everything is ridiculous. So I think I probably will slide the barrel off. So here comes the barrel. And what have we got?
Well, I think I might have been wrong about the piston rings. They seem fine. So maybe I didn't need to do that. But while it's out, I can decoke the exhaust port, which is pretty ridiculous. It's completely coated up. So, well, yeah, while it's out, I'll decoke that, liberate a few more horses, well, a few more fractions of a horse anyway. Not that many horses. That's the gasket. Won't be reusing that. Although I've got to see if I've got any more. So, yeah, the challenge goes on. So the Baffle saga continues. That was a cat, and it spent a day and a half in the caustic soda, and which got loads off, and then I've just blowtorched the hell out of it, and I've just cracked off loads more big chunks. So it's the diminishing returns now. I think I've spent all this time convincing myself this was the root cause, given that I've got so much off, it's just untrue. So I think it's time to start, I'll clean this up a bit more. It's time to start rebuilding the bike. First step of the rebuild is to give everything a damn good clean. So I stuffed the crankcase with all this blue roll so I don't get any rubbish going down inside the big end and crank, and just used WD-40 and blue roll and just give everything a good clean, taking the airbox off so that when I come to clean this gasket face I don't get crud, muck, crap and crud and muck all over everything. So I'll pull these out now, clean the gasket face, and I can stick this air filter back on. So the air filter's gone back on, which was a bit of a pain in the fiddle. And now I'm going to stick the cylinder head and the cylinder and head back on. I've got new gaskets, I've got some 2-stroke oil, so let's get cracking. So as you saw, that's a pretty quick and easy process. The key thing to make sure is that all your gasket surfaces are absolutely spotlessly clean and there's no muck or grit or rubbish flying around anywhere. So now I'm ready to stick the carb on in here. Didn't actually ultrasonically clean the carb, it seemed fine, so I'm just going to stick it straight back on. Carb now back on, and I think I'll put on the little side cover for now, just so that when I get it down off the pallet I don't knacker anything. So next step is to install my beautifully cleaned up Baffle. Still got a few bits inside it, but that'll do. Stick that back in the exhaust, stick the exhaust on, and then we can get the bike down, see if it'll go. So here she is in all of her glory. Exhaust has gone back on, all screwed back together. She's looking very, very spiffing, isn't she?
beautiful, like a shiny new pin almost. So with no further ado, I will put some fuel in her and see if she'll start. Fuel on. So there you have it. She works. So I went for a nice little ride. Everything seems to work all right. Brakes even work, so that's all good. So it's mission accomplished. So I hope you enjoyed that little video. If you want to see what else is going to come out of Bean & Bracket Factory, then subscribe and you'll find out in due course. Cheers for now.